Hello, this educational video is brought to you by the Colorado HOA Information and Resource Center. The topic of this video presentation is Board Meeting Procedures and Requirements. The information provided during this presentation is for educational purposes only and is not meant to provide or to be construed as legal advice. Any legal questions should be directed to your attorney. For an efficient board meeting, it is important to know the steps involved in running a meeting. There are a number of steps that we will now go through in more detail. These board meeting steps include recognize that there is a quorum, calling the meeting to order, approving the agenda, approving the last meeting's minutes, communication and reports, old business, new business, other business, and adjourning the meeting. The first step is recognize that there is a quorum. The first order of business should be for the board chair to determine if a quorum is present. The quorum is defined in the association's bylaws. If the quorum is not specifically defined, a simple majority of all the board members is the standard. Next, calling the meeting to order. The next order of business is for the board chair to call the meeting to order by simply stating that fact. The chair then can address items of a cursory or personal nature, as well as welcoming new board members and guests, thanking people for their service to the community, and any general community information. The next step is approving the agenda. Next, the board chair moves to the agenda items. The chair should ask the other board members to approve the agenda. If a board member requests additions, amendments, or deletions of the amended agenda may be approved without a vote of the board. The next step is approving the last meeting's minutes. The board will need to take care of the past meeting items. Before any official business can go forward in the meeting, the board should approve the minutes of the prior meeting. This can be done by asking the secretary to read the minutes of the prior meeting or by sending the minutes to members prior to the meeting to review. The chair then asks the board members if there are any corrections or changes to the minutes. If there are no modifications, the chair announces that the minutes are approved as to form and as written. If, however, there is a dispute about an amendment to the minutes, the chair should ask for a vote if the changes should be adopted. If and when the board members have accepted the minutes, the chair can simply state, if there are no further corrections, the minutes stand as approved and as corrected. The board secretary then records any amendments to the current meeting minutes, and the chair signs the minutes to make them official. The next step is to call for any reports of the association to be presented and heard. This is usually done by the chair or any standing or special committee. If a committee wants to make a recommendation to the board, the reporting member moves to adopt it. If not, the report can be filed with no action taken by the board for review. Consider to always go over the association's financial reports so that all the board members can get a good idea on the current financial stability of the association. Old business. Next, the board can move on to old business, which are matters that the board had previously discussed and that are now ready for formal approval. If any of the matters require additional discussion, the chair should ask for approval to move those items to the discussion portion of the meeting. All other items, however, should be voted on and approved, postponed, or tabled. New business. After taking care of old business matters, the chair should announce new business matters that are now before the board, one at a time, and allow for full discussion. The chair should always invite full discussion from the board members and facilitate any debate in order to hear from all the members and get their opinions. Once the discussion is over, the matter can be voted on, amended, tabled, moved to committee for consideration, or postponed. Other business. This step of the meeting allows for board members to bring up matters that do not warrant any discussion. Board members should be invited by the chair to present these other matters, which could be just a simple announcement, or a matter that is just brought up for future consideration and discussion at a later date. To adjourn the board meeting, the chair should thank everyone for their attendance and participation and ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Once motioned, seconded, and voted to adjourn by the board, the chair will declare the meeting adjourned. It is important to have a well-run and efficient board meeting. Poorly run meetings can seem like they go on forever without anything being accomplished. All board members should be well prepared prior to the meeting so they can make well thought out decisions for the benefit of the association. Making motions at board meetings. The process of handling motions generally involves the following steps, depending on the motion and the rules of order in use. The steps in making a motion includes: a board member obtains the floor and makes a motion. Another board member seconds the motion. The board chair states the motion. The board members discuss and debate the motion. The board chair puts the motion to a vote, and the board chair announces the results of the vote and what happens with the motion. There are a combination of laws in Colorado that discuss the board meeting procedures and requirements. Both the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Act, Sections 7-128-201 to 205 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, and the Kiowa Law, Section 3833.3308, address many issues concerning Board of Director meetings. Meeting notice requirements. With regard to Board of Director meetings, first check your association's bylaws to see what the notice requirements are. The Board of Directors may hold both regular or special meetings. A board usually has the power to establish a schedule for its regular board meetings, unless it is restricted or prohibited by the bylaws. Many associations set up a schedule of regular board meetings monthly or quarterly. The notice typically states the dates, time, and location of those meetings. Unless otherwise provided by law or in the association's bylaws, regular meetings of the Board of Directors may be held without notice of the date, time, place, or purpose of the meeting. If the board is going to hold a special board meeting, first provide any required notice as stated in the bylaws. The meeting should state the date, time, and location of that meeting, and the purpose of the meeting should be stated, at least in general. If the association's bylaws do not provide any special meeting notice requirements, the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Corporation Act provides that the notice to all board members should be provided at least 20 days prior to the meeting. Always check the bylaws to see what form of any notice would need to be provided, if any. It is always a good transparent practice to provide notice in some form to homeowners, such as U.S. mail, email, phone, fax, or posted on the HOA website. Owners want to know what is happening in the community, and effective communication to the association owners goes a long way in keeping them informed. Also, unless otherwise provided in the bylaws, the Board of Directors may permit any director to participate in a regular or special meeting by, or conduct the meeting through the use of, any means of communication by which all directors participating may hear each other during the meeting. A director participating in a meeting by this means is deemed to be present in person at the meeting. As set forth in Colorado statute, agendas shall be provided. The board shall make agendas for meetings of the board, as well as any meetings of committees that are authorized to take action on behalf of the board, reasonably available for examination in advance by all residential members or their representatives. If there is no formal agenda, residential members nonetheless are entitled to a general description of the purpose of the meeting and the subject matter that will be discussed. Board meetings are open to homeowners. All regular and special meetings of the Residential Nonprofit Corporation's Board of Directors or Executive Committee, or any committee of the board that is authorized to take final action on the board's behalf, must be open to attendance by all residential members or their representatives. An association is encouraged to provide all notices and agendas required by the Kiowa Law in electronic form, for instance by posting it on a website, in addition to the printed form. If such electronic means are available, the association shall provide notice of all regular and special meetings of the board by electronic mail to all those owners who so requested and provide the association with their email address. Electronic notice of a special meeting shall be given as soon as possible, but at least 24 hours before the meeting. The right to speak at a meeting. At an appropriate time, determined by the board, but before the board votes on an issue under discussion, unit owners or their designated representatives shall be permitted to speak regarding that issue. The board may place reasonable time restrictions on persons speaking during the meeting. If more than one person desires to address an issue and there are opposing views, the board shall provide for a reasonable number of persons to speak on each side of the issue. A board meeting, executive or closed session. The The members of the Executive Board or any committee thereof may hold an executive or closed-door session and may restrict attendance to Executive Board members and other persons requested by the Board during a regular or specially announced meeting or part thereof. The matters to be discussed, however, at such an executive session are very limited and specified in the Kiowa Law in Section 3833.3, 308, subsection 4. No rule or regulation of the Board or any committee thereof shall be adopted during an executive session. A rule or regulation may be validly adopted only during a regular or special meeting or after the body goes back into regular session following an executive session. The minutes of all meetings at which an executive session was held shall indicate that an executive session was held and the general subject matter of that executive session. Is a board allowed to take any action without a meeting? The Nonprofit Act, Section 7-128-202 of Colorado Revised Statute, allows for board action without a meeting. Unless otherwise provided in the bylaws, any action required or permitted to be taken at a Board of Directors meeting may be taken without a meeting if notice is transmitted in writing to each member of the board and is approved by the members under the statute. Board action without a meeting has the same effect as action taken at a meeting of the Board of Directors and may be described as such in any document. All writings made in these meetings shall be filed with the minutes of the meetings of the Board of Directors. Board meeting quorum. This is referred to in the Colorado Nonprofit Corporation Act in Section 7-128-205 of the Colorado Revised Statutes. Unless a greater or lesser number is required in the bylaws, a quorum of a Board of Directors consists of a majority of the number of directors in office immediately before the meeting begins. Board meeting voting. If a quorum is present when a vote is taken, the affirmative vote of a majority of directors present is the act of the Board of Directors, unless the vote of a greater number of directors is required. If provided in the bylaws, for purposes of determining a quorum and for purposes of casting a vote for or against a particular proposal, a director may be deemed to be present at a meeting and to vote if the director has granted a signed written proxy to another director who is present at the meeting. The proxy can authorize the other director to cast the vote that is directed to be cast by the written proxy with respect to the particular proposal that is described with reasonable specificity in the proxy. Board meeting minutes are much more than just a general summary of board discussions. They serve as an official and legal record of the meeting of the Board of Directors. Minutes are used in a variety of ways, including tracking progress, detailing future plans, and serving as a reference point. Among other things, your meeting minutes should reflect a record of motions, votes, and abstentions. The board secretary has the responsibility to handle recording the minutes, including some planning before the meeting, taking notes during the meeting, writing a formal minutes report after the meeting, as well as filing, retaining, distributing, and posting the minutes of each meeting. Unless your organization requires you to type notes at the meeting, the secretary can either type them out on a computer or write longhand. Some boards even choose to have a tape recording of the meeting. Finally, the association should publish and provide the board minutes to owners. The association should have a policy in place of how they distribute and post the board meeting minutes. Always check to see if the association bylaws set forth any requirements. Many associations post them on their website for owner access, post them on a community bulletin board, or even mail them out to the owners. This has been an educational presentation from the HOA Information and Resource Center. Following this presentation, you will find a short quiz and some HOA resources. Thank you for watching.